magic when it just doesn't go right the way you want it. Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to an overview and my thoughts on the latest live letter number 39 for Final Fantasy XIV. This time covering the content that is coming in 4.1 and even a little bit of a look into patch 4.2 itself. Now, before we get started, a few basic things. Marco didn't do this translation. Instead, we got permission from the Reddit Discord in order to use their translations, not only for the live stream earlier, but for this video as well. The translations themselves were done primarily by Iluna Minori and Kavensky, while Hezkizel actually has been providing images all throughout. So we can click those on occasion, so I can give you some zoom-ins and explain certain things. So credit to them. If you want to go to the Reddit Discord server, I'll be sure to include a link for that in the YouTube video. If you're watching me live on Twitch as I record this right now, type !Reddit and you can read along with these changes and you don't need to wait for me to scroll down. But anyway, it's a lot of stuff to cover, so let's get started. So they started with the 4.1 trailer. I'll probably do a separate analysis of that trailer itself. It's very short, only about 4.5 minutes. They left out things like new hairstyles and well, they didn't leave out Hildebrand, but they didn't have like the same structure that they normally do for the trailers. And personally, it made the patch not look huge, but it was also very concise and very easy to watch. So I was kind of a big fan of the new way they decided to do the trailers. So one of the first things they decided to show off, and I'm going to be skipping ahead a little bit here, is Bard's new Perform feature. So for those who don't know, they revealed this in the last live letter. Bard is getting the option to basically play an instrument for real. You can actually play songs with multiple different octaves, and in the future, we'll have even more octaves and even more instruments. Yoshida actually started the stream by playing the Kugane theme, with the Prima Vista from the Return to Ivelisse raid hanging out in the back over the horizon of Kugane. So after he was done playing that, they explained a few things about it. For one, due to jitters between the syncing of when the player is pressing the notes and when nearby players actually hear it get played, they're pushing it back to 4.15 so they can fix those jitters. But if you're someone who's very musically inclined or just wants to try and create the greatest sandstorm meme you possibly can in as many different octaves as possible, that is going to be a new feature for you in 4.15. So please look forward to it. Hi. Moving on, they started by covering the basics of 4.1, of course, with the release date being October 10th, as we've been predicting for quite some time now. That is how they always lead these like part 2 style live letters. They recapped all the things coming in 4.1 and then went into further detail on a great deal of them. For those who may not be aware, new main scenario quests, new side quests, the interlude of the Hildebrand storyline, very short introduction to his Stormblood story. The new Beast Tribe quest for the Kojin, the new dungeon, the Drowned City of Scala, Shinryu Extreme, the ultimate coils of Bahamut, or the unending coils of Bahamut Ultimate, the new 24-man raid, Return to Ivelisse. We also have Rival Wings, the new PvP content, which we'll get into a little bit later, battle system updates, including an Alliance raid roulette, and the size restrictions removed from Alliance raids, so you'll finally have an extra roulette to get all those old 24-man raids that maybe you've been missing for quite some time done, or so that people who never got them done can actually get them done now. Lost Canals of Uznay are getting an update, and that's actually one of my favorite things. I can actually finish those details right here because there's not a whole lot to discuss. So basically, right now, Lost Canals of Uznay, you go get a time-worn Gazelskin map, you do it with a party, and sometimes a portal leads into this treasure dungeon, which has materia, gil, crafting materials, housing items, whatever. Now, while you're inside of the Lost Canals of Uznay, you can find another map, and when you use that map in the open world and complete it, it will 100% give you a portal to the hidden chambers of the Lost Canals of Uznay. There's going to be 3 separate doors instead of 2. You're going to be able to double up on the rewards, or double or nothing, meaning that if you flip a coin and get tails, you get nada, and you can do that up to 5 times. So go double, 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 or just immediately 0, which we all know that's what most of us are going to get anyway. So it should add a little bit more for your gambler's spirit, and also they say the enemies inside are quite dangerous, so they recommend you go in with 8 people. We'll see what actually ends up happening, because the original one recommended 8, but you could realistically do it with 4 or 5, just not super comfortably. Also, Adventurer Squadron updates. We're going to be getting to dive into a little bit of the dungeoneering that you can do with your Adventurer Squadron. Actually, they mentioned Uznay stuff right here. So, is this still the same thing? Housing updates, Shirogane is going to become available, the relocation service will be made available, and they made it so you can swim in all 4 of the residential areas, even adding a Roman-style bath to the goblet, which in my opinion was one of the coolest sets. Updates to crafting, gathering, and item updates, new custom delivery client in the form of Monago. If you haven't done that before, you might want to check out some videos or something on that so we don't have to explain it in full detail here. The weekly delivery reset moved from Thursdays to Tuesdays. So all your crafting related stuff is on Tuesdays now as well. All the weekly resets line up. Beast Tribe currencies moved to the currency list so they don't take up inventory space anymore. And venture scripts moved to the currency list so they don't take up inventory space anymore. Now, moving into the first thing, we have dungeon exploration with your adventure squadron. So basically, you go to your squadrons, which hopefully you've been raising and leveling up and using to get certain rewards for yourself. And you'll have the option to take 3 of your maximum of 8 squadron members with you. You'll want to make sure you're 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS. So whatever role you're going as is going to determine what NPCs you actually want to take with you. And you'll have access to 5 dungeons. You'll have access to Halatali, Toto Rock, Brayfox's Longstop, Stone Vigil, and Wanderer's Palace. And on top of that, if you've been taking care of your NPCs, they'll actually be quite strong going into those dungeons, despite being on classes. They get access to buffs as well as the ability to modify their AI, so they approach the content a little bit differently. From what I can see, the AI itself is actually fairly smart, and we'll show that in a little bit. It also looks like you have a cost of 2,500 Grand Company seals to enter, and it does have an experience point reward when you complete these dungeons. You also get emotes as rewards. You can get the squat emote, the push-up emote, the sit-up emote, all as rewards from Adventurer Squadrons as well. Here you go. This is where you can modify their AI, and you can actually see that you get these buffs. Like you can see like 30% HP buff and 30% to some other buff, and they have like a free stance and a heal stance and a tank stance. So if you just want them to all have like general buffs, that's what the free stance is for, or just they perform generally. If you want them to be more focused, you can set them to be more focused on a specific type of playstyle. So scrolling down, you can also glamour them. As you can see, you can equip them with a weapon, a shield, headpiece, body, hands, legs, and boots, so they can also look fab while you're going through those dungeons as well. So he started going through Halatali. He went in, and by the way, the healer immediately used Protect. Thank you, AI, for knowing exactly what I want. Now, because you are their leader, even if you're like a DPS or not a tank, you have to give them commands. You can issue them commands to go forward and attack, retreat, use the limit break, as well as a couple of other actions here as well. Moving forward, you'll see that he also has a little bit of a UI change here. You can see class and job are on the actions list, which is a nice little change. Let's see, going down. So he actually issues the command for all of his AI members to go and attack that enemy. Now, there are a few things that were a little weird. So the tank immediately runs in and starts attacking. When there's multiple targets, he uses flash. And even sometimes when he's on one target and the blind falls off, sometimes he uses flash. The healer DPSs. I just want to point that out. In a lot of these pulls, the healer would pull early with arrow, and then immediately lucid dreaming when it looks like they have infinite MP. And then they would also go through some of their other role action buffs, like I saw them use Largus and things like that. But they're pretty smart, and you can see their HP compared to the main players. The Conjurer has 900 HP. Yoshida has 573. So he's level 70 synced down, and it's almost got double his health. And the Lancer has more than double, and then the Gladiator has almost triple his health. So they're going to be, I guess that's to make up for the AI probably not being perfect. But the AI's not bad. I mean, they knew the Protect at the beginning of the dungeon. The healing works okay. The healer DPSs when it doesn't have any healing to do. And on top of that, the Lancer even does positionals. I don't think there's any good screenshot of it here. But the Lancer will actually use positionals. And it even had access to Chaos Thrust in Halatali. So it looks like if they're level 50, even though they sink down to the level 23 of the dungeon, it looks like they still keep all their level 50 skills, which is OP and is what people have been asking for a long time. And these NPCs are a perfect example of why it's OP. They are officially stronger than the Warrior of Light. Okay, so they just played around a little bit inside the dungeon, and then they showed off some of the emotes. You can see the sitting up, kind of. You can see the push-ups. And, of course, you have the squats, which, well, Zach would be proud. Now they started talking about job adjustments. Now, I'm actually going to leave these be. There's a full part at the bottom of this translation that goes into more detail of the job adjustments. These are very rough, like one-off sentences trying to do it live. We're going to wait till we scroll to the bottom before talking about the job changes themselves, because it's put together a little bit more than what you're seeing here. So we're going to skip all the way ahead to Shinryu Extreme. So saw 10 creation tomes at least. So Shinryu has a bunch of new phases and new attacks in this new mode. If you've seen the trailer, you'll actually see that there's a phase where you actually have to climb along his back. There's also a new platform where you actually have to share the platform with him, and we saw that in some of the screenshots on the 4.1 website. So it's going to be a good time. Shinryu is supposed to kind of fill the gap between 02 and 03, but this is one of those patches where there isn't really a gap. So is he really going to be between 02 and 03 difficulty? Or is he just going to be like 03, like between 03 and 04 difficulty, and they're just saying that he's between 02 and 03? I don't know. If he's going to be like Thornton, he's got to be a hell of a challenge, you know. And comparing Thornton to Thornton was meant to fit between 02 and 03. It's not the same gap between 02 and 03 versus A2 and A3. So I'm curious to see where it actually ends up panning out. But the fight looks incredible. The changes that they've made to it, even from just some of the trailer images that we got to see, it looks awesome. There were no AoE indicators on the icicles that come from the back of the room. The tail has an indicator of where to drop it, but doesn't have an AoE indicator otherwise. There's heal checks, DPS checks. It's a fight. What do you want? Weapon will be a reward. If I had to take a guess, item level 335. So we already talked about the perform feature, so we can also skip ahead of this. The HUD updates was really exciting. So they are doing a mass overhaul to what you're able to do with the HUD in Final Fantasy XIV. This screenshot is just one example. So one of the things we're getting is simplified job bars. So many of you know, like the bard job bar currently, you know, it's the harp and it's got the countdown and it strums every time you get a proc and yada, yada, yada. That's Mage's Ballad. The top bar you see that has the 27 under it, that's the Mage's Ballad bar right here. That's what the simplified job bar looks like, and you'll see the Black Mage one a little bit later. They're made to display without all the fancy graphics and stuff like that. Now, I'm sure that for the other two songs, because they have actual, like, you know, repertoire and other stacks to keep track of, that to the left of the 27 of the number, which is counting the time you have left on the buff, there'll probably be some stuff there, but it shouldn't be too overly intrusive. Now, under that is actually a bar that's keeping track of the straight shot buff. As you can see, straight shot's got 10 seconds left, and the bar immediately above it says 10 seconds left. So you're going to have more options for tracking your personal buffs and tracking your job buffs that you've already had gauges for the past several months. Also, more debuffs are going to be displayed, and you can separate buffs and debuffs on your UI now. You can choose to keep them together, or you can choose to separate them, and you even have multiple ways in which to modify their display. So if we scroll down a little bit more, we can get better options of this. Now, in the HUD layout itself, which I know is a little cut off, but you can see the majority of what you need to, the HUD options are all in the HUD setup now. They're not in like character configuration, and then you have to like go separately over here. Thank goodness. It should have been that way 4 years ago, but at least it's like that now. And with this, you're able to, again, separate certain UI elements. You're able to customize them to display the way you want to, change their size, stuff like that. It's all way better and way more customizable than it was before. Now, on top of being able to separate the buff and the debuff bar and choose if you want it to lay out in more of a box or like a long line, you can also separate the target health bar from the target cast bar. So if you're one of those people that maybe misses casts from targets because you keep your like target bar at the top of the screen and you know you can't keep track of the target, if you want to, you could separate like the boss's HP bar from the abilities that it's casting bar, and you can just slap that in the very middle of the screen, so there's no way you can miss it. Another huge quality of life thing there, being able to move the actual cast bar for the target from the target's HP bar. Thank goodness. And of course the ability to modify the size for everything. So, moving on a little bit more, you can also expand your HUD to 200% the size now, mostly for 4K and up users in terms of graphics, but at least it's there. Going down a little bit more, changing the UI settings of everything. It memorizes all of your settings. So like, for example, in this screenshot right here, you can see that he has an option enabled. If he were to disable that option and then re-enable it, it would remember what he re-enabled it to. So he doesn't have to modify it every single time. It doesn't save it server side to like the whole UI, which might have been what you thought. It's just, it saves that one specific thing to the computer that you're on. So now, this is another example of simple mode UI. So at the top, you can see that is the simple mode for Black Mage. The bar that's filling in the top is the Enochian timer. When it fills, you get on the far right, that one will light up to let you know you have foul. On the bottom left, you can see the time left on Astral Fire, Umbral Ice, and immediately to the right of that, you can see how many stacks of Astral Fire or Umbral Ice you have. If it's fire, it's red. If it's ice, it's blue. To the right of that, at the bottom right of the UI element, is Umbral Hearts for Black Mage. To be honest, this is way cleaner. I like this for Black Mage a million times better than the staff with the circles that tick down and all. I don't know. To me, this is way better of a UI element than the fancy staff and all that stuff. So obviously some jobs like Paladin, Warrior probably don't need as much of a change, but they'll probably still have simplified ones that don't have as much of a flair to them, or you know, not as many flashy effects to them. I think it's good. I want to see, we've seen Bard, we've seen Black Mage. I want to see some of the other ones. I want to see how Summoners looks. I want to see how Machinists looks, and a few others as well. Let's see, what else do we have here? I already mentioned this earlier. The class and the job is being rolled into actions. So it's not two different things. It's not class actions, job actions. It's class and job actions, all in just the actions tab. Then they took a 10-minute break, and then they came back and they talked about the relocation services. So people are wondering how you're going to relocate your house if you currently own one. Personally, I would recommend reading the Lodestone post that they made. It goes into a pretty decent detail of what will entail relocation, you know, how much money you save on relocating from the cost of your old house to the new one. But TLDR, you own a house right now, you go to the new plot, you press buy house, it asks you if you want to relocate your old house. If you say yes, it gives you a 20% discount, I believe, of the cost, the reduced cost of your old house, not the original cost. I don't remember that, but it gives you a discount based on the cost of your old house. And then your new house just plops right there. It'll take whatever outward design you had. It'll take your Chocobo stable and your Ethernet, and it'll throw it on your lawn, and it'll be there. All of your furnishings, both external and internal, will be thrown into a storage unit, and that storage unit is larger for the larger houses, all the way up to 400 units for a large house. And even items that are usually like, if you can't remove them or they get destroyed, even those will go to storage, so they won't be destroyed either. So you can then just reorganize your house. I highly recommend that you take pictures of your house ahead of relocation, so you don't have to try to remember it when you actually relocate itself. So he relocated to Shirogane, and it's super easy. It's just a couple of button presses, and you're good to go. And then they showed around swimming. He swam in Shirogane. He swam in the lavender beds, which you can see right here for the swimming. There was also one other thing I got to scroll back and show you. Yeah, so here's some of the water in the lavender beds you can swim in. And there's islands that you can hang out on and stuff like that. There's a little jump puzzle in the Shirogane housing area. It's a tiny one. Looks like it's about as long as the one that's in Ralger's Reach. You know, but it's there. You know, have a good time. You know, just whatever it is. And then you have swimming in the mist. Obviously, you're going to be swimming in the ocean there. That's no surprise. And then they added the Roman-style baths for the goblet, which I think looks awesome. And it's given a lot of value to the goblet as a place people might want to spend their time in terms of looking pretty, at the very least. So moving on, what was next? Rival Wings. Now, Rival Wings is the new PvP mode. I'm calling it Final Fantasy XIV meets MOBA. Because even though you won't be controlling it from a top-down perspective, it is very much a MOBA-style gameplay mode. Now, it's currently set to launch in 4.15, and ultimately, the goal is your team of 24 against the enemy team of 24. First team to destroy the enemy's core wins. There's 2 lanes. Each lane has a single tower, and you need to destroy both towers before you can actually get to the core itself. Parties are also going to be broken up into 6 light parties, so you're going to be responsible for just 3 other people around you. Obviously, if you can help people in the other parties, that's great, but you're most immediately responsible for looking after your fellow members in your light parties. So for people who may feel like, as healing, for example, keeping track of 7 other people when they're running all over the place is a little too difficult. This will allow you to hopefully organize between these 4 people and actually like set an objective. As 4, we want to go do this. And, you know, maybe we need 2 units of 4 to go here and 2 units of 4 to go here. But at least you're just more immediately responsible for just fewer people within your party. It probably means that the expectation is going to be 6 healers, though. But we'll see what actually ends up being the plan for Rival Wings as a whole. Now, let's see. Sorry, my nose itches a little bit. So on top of that, no party composition restrictions, choose any job, can change job at the start, restart area, and can use free company and link shell chat while inside. Now, as for the other things you can see here, destroy the opposing enemy's core to win. If the core is not destroyed by the end, then the team with more towers will win. If you have the same amount of towers, then whoever has more HP on their towers will win. And if both the towers are gone and it's just the core with the most HP will win. They're right by each party member's area. And the Magitech field must be disabled before the cores can be damaged. Destroy all opposing team's tower to destroy the Magitech field. Then going on to the Machina. Now, after completing special conditions, you're able to send a player to go grab one of 3 different Machina that represent the Illuminati-style mech from Alexander. Now, the first one is Cruise Chaser, who is specifically good against handling enemy combatants and other machina. So he's someone you want to take if you really want to try to clear out players more than anything else. The Oppressor is for pushing lanes. It specializes in destroying towers and cores, but moves incredibly slow and needs to be protected and needs to be used at the proper time. Also, it means that you're going to have a huge bullseye on top of your head. And finally, you have Brute Justice, who is the ultimate machina, and he is effective against everything. So he is your ultimate goal, and when you have him, you're really going to be wanting to be pushing the envelope and trying to destroy the enemy team as well. Brute Justice's final mode will signal that the opponent is about to win. So the opponent will want to prevent that from happening. Brute Justice can use it after 2 of your towers are destroyed. So that's normal Brute Justice. When 2 towers are destroyed and it's just your core, he becomes Winged Justice, which is what you saw up here in the screenshot on the right-hand side. So it's also a means of potentially coming back into the game by utilizing his Winged Justice mode a little bit more in depth. Now, on top of that, each of the 2 lanes has minions or mammoths that just walk up the lane and just walk towards the enemy tower. And if the tower in that lane is gone, they'll walk towards the enemy core. So they're ultimately ushering them in to help take towers is going to help immensely. And also clearing out the enemy mammoths is going to be of great use to make sure they don't reach your towers and your core as well. Now, it's also going to be separated from front lines. So you have front lines, you have Feast, and now you have Rival Wings, which implies that maybe we'll get more maps or modes for Rival Wings, but we'll just have to wait and see. They didn't have any comment about that. Now, moving into Ultimates, the Unending Coil of Bahamut Ultimate. A few screenshots here from when you actually enter. You can see Nail Deus Darnus with Bahamut behind her. You can see both of them just kind of floating up here, waiting and watching and ready to destroy you. The fight begins against Twin Tanya. No ads, just Twin Tanya, and also they've restricted the play arena so that you cannot use the divot in the hand in order to dodge dive bombs. That was the first thing I noticed. Oh, and yeah, touching the wall. It's going to kill you. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. So Twin Tanya starts the fight with abilities that you'll recognize, but immediately within new patterns. So one thing we noticed was that Death Sentence actually has a slashing debuff on it. Now, when the Death Sentence hits Naoki Yoshida's Black Mage, it does about 100,000 damage. The auto attack that follows did about 200,000 damage. It was a crit, though. To be fair, the regular auto attack did about 130k, but the crit auto did about 200,000. So idea is you'd probably want to tank swap the Death Sentence in the middle of the cast bar because you don't want to eat Death Sentence into an auto attack because it's probably going to, even with the tank mitigations factored in, it's probably going to be a bad time. Another thing was that it still has Plummet and has Fireball. Now, Fireball from turn 5 was a split damage AoE that would give Twin Tanya a haste buff for however many targets were hit. So you didn't want to split it with too many people. In this one, it didn't seem to give Twin Tanya a haste buff yet, but it's always possible that because the Neuralink hasn't suffered any breaks yet, that's why the haste buff itself is not applying yet. While Fireball was being used, Twin Tanya used Twister, and Twister only had maybe a 1 second, maybe 1.2 second cast time total. So pretty much as soon as you see the mark above your head, if you're not moving, you're probably getting hit by Twister. So you need to be well aware of what's going to happen, and you need to stack back up and make sure you don't accidentally step on the Twisters, and make sure that it's going to be fun. There's Twisters in the first 5 seconds of the fight. That's all you really need to know. And then it happens again like another 10 seconds later. So it's going to be a good time. Yoshi P even said, just remember, if you're scared, turn back now. As for the weapon, so here's where we get into some more fun details. The weapon itself is a gold version of the Dreadworm weapon by the looks of it. So it is item level 345, and it shares the item level. And according to the official translation, I'm just going to read this word for word, so there's no confusion from the official translation. The new weapon's item level and sub-attributes will be the same as the Genji weapons. However, it will have a third materia slot. So, it's automatically BIS. It's basically an extra 40 crit, direct hit, whatever it is you're melding on to that point, depending on what weapon you got. But it is a third materia slot that is going to be on this weapon. The minimum item level to enter Ultimate is 340, which is what I expected it to be. Now, that being said, I'm sure tanks are thinking, but what about my 320 accessories? I'm sure if you go with a full party, it's not going to make you switch up to 340. Even if that was the case, let's be honest, most tanks would probably just equip the 340 accessories and then swap back to the 320. Just keep in mind that that's more along the lines of, this is not a fight you will overgear until another patch from now. If you don't beat it in this patch cycle and you think more gear would help, well, good luck. Because honestly, it's probably so much of a mechanical problem that I don't know that that's necessarily going to help you out. It's also a 2-hour instance, and on top of that, we got information about how the loot rules are going to work for this weapon. So when you complete the fight, you're going to get every single person who's part of the success gets 1 token. That token, just that 1 token, is enough to get a weapon. So basically, every week you can get 1 weapon. Now, originally we thought that it was going to be that it was a chest plus a token, and that there was going to be no loot restrictions whatsoever, so you could just farm them all in a week. You can only get 1 token a week, but if you're 7 people and then you go in with 1 more person who hasn't cleared it yet that week, they will still get their token. So there's no like, hey, there's 7 people and 1 person, so this 1 person doesn't get their weapon because the 7 people cleared it already. So you can like try to work through it with your free company and help people get through it and practice on it and stuff like that. So keep that in mind, that there is no actual loot restriction other than the 1 token per week. They are looking for feedback on the fight and the difficulty, and it's going to be 2 weeks after patch 4.1. So in patch 4.11, meaning October 24th, will be the official launch date of Ultimate. These are just some more screenshots, and Yoshi P saying that you're going to die horribly, and it's going to be bad. It's got a lockout of the instance lockout is 2 hours, like Neo X Death. The fight itself is probably going to be pretty long, but not 2 hours. Then we got to see Return to Ivelisse, a little bit of Rabanastre. I'll be talking more about this in the trailer analysis of patch 4.1. But I gotta say, in the trailer, Rabanastre is beautiful. The music's great. You get to see Bonga. You get to see Hashmal Mateus, as well as a new enemy that they didn't want to give the name for yet. And he didn't go inside Rabanastre. He didn't want to spoil it. He just said something's happening to Rabanastre with the Garleans, yada, yada, yada. So he didn't want to give us any more details, but he thinks you'll be quite nostalgic about the whole thing. This is the boss who they said they didn't want to name yet. So that's, take it as it is. That's how he looks actually in the game itself. The in-game render of the chariot boss right there. And then other updates. Okay, other updates was the next thing. I have mixed feelings about this next one. Alchemy, if you have your alchemist leveled, you're getting the ability to detach materia from gear. Now, when you detach materia from gear, there is a chance that you will get the materia back into your inventory. Now, low-level grade materias, grades 1, 2, 3, all have like 100% success rate. When you get all the way up to grade 6, which is really the materia that matters most at this point, it's got a 40% chance of returning the materia to your inventory when you detach it. So I'm sure crafters and gatherers are probably pretty happy about this, because it means that when they go to upgrade their gear, they can try to detach it and see how much they can actually save. It does probably mean that materia markets, some that were already in a mass decline because of how easy it is to get materia now, are going to be even less profitable. So it is what it is. It's technically like a pretty nice quality of life thing for some. For others, it's a market that just is probably going to go even further down than where it was right now. Take it beyond whichever side of the argument you are. I wouldn't say either side of the argument is right or wrong. It's just 2 different perspectives. Also, I mentioned this in a previous video. Desynth is now going to more properly display what level of desynth you need to desynthesize an item. So that's just good information. Hildebrand's going to be short. Kojin dailies, unlock them out, and you can unlock them as soon as you unlock diving, so you can even use them as you're going through the main scenario the first time. Remind people that all the crafting stuff's resetting on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays. The crafting stuff, we mentioned this earlier with like the Beast Tribe crafting stuff and the venture tokens being moved into the currency tab. So it's just something else. One other thing worth noting, allied seals are gone. It looks like only Centurio seals will matter. And that's good, because it means that all hunts should give Centurio seals now. And on top of that, it should mean you can use Centurio seals to get the speed boosts for the Realm Reborn areas as well. So it's only 1,000 as a cap, which is still kind of low. But I mean, as long as you're paying close attention to it, it shouldn't be that bad. And it's just one less thing for you to keep track of. Looking into 4.2, they actually said that more inventory slots are coming in 4.2. So these next 2 kind of confuse me. PvP cross-world feature will be in 4.2. You can do cross-world custom matches in 4.1. So unless that's like cross data center, like North America can play against North America because we have 2 different data centers, or if like Japan has 3 and Europe it's, well, you guys are fine. You don't got to wait till 4.2 for this. And team registration will begin 4.2. I'm wondering if they're trying to push for more like 4v4 organized PvP content for the Feast in 4.2. But I'm going to need more elaboration on that because I don't completely understand what it is I'm reading right there. But that's what it says. PvP Crossworld and team registration will be in 4.2. And Crossworld link shells will also be in 4.2. What else do we have? Oh, so Eureka the Forbidden Land. I've been predicting that it wasn't going to make it in the 4.1 cycle. Well, looks like I was correct. Eureka has officially been pushed back to 4.2 because they couldn't make it for 4.15. And that will be your new way of developing the relic weapon. For anyone who doesn't know, Eureka is a zone with quests and events dedicated to progressing relic weapon and potentially in the future, relic armor, although that has not yet been 100% confirmed. They're also going to be implementing a new feature in group pose known as the battle content replay feature with 3 quotes apparently. So let's say you go into Titan, you beat Titan, and you now have that last battle saved in your group pose as a replay. And you can go into that with group pose feature. You can get different camera views, angles, add effects to it, use it to pause and study raid mechanics and make guides. Yeah, sorry, I got a bit of a cough on that last one. And it's going to be awesome for really so many members of the community. I'm sure all of you are thinking like, Larry could do something, Mary could do something, like me, Ms. Zeno, everyone could do something with that. It's one of the most useful community related things that they've done in a pretty long time. So you should hopefully see a lot of people utilizing this new feature to really up their game on the type of content that gets developed within the game itself, especially when it comes to stuff that's focused around gameplay content. So this is more stuff about make a movie, dramatic version of your raid battles. But when it launches in 4.2, it's going to be the beta version, meaning it's not really complete, and they want people to test it and provide feedback on it. So the beta version comes out in 4.2, and it'll be available on the live servers, just not 100% complete. So this next one. Next season of the Feast will allow you to hide your loss statistics. Guys, my win-loss ratio is private information, and I do not want that to be public on the internet. That is for me and me only. I don't like this. It's PvP. Come on now. Come on. Come on. All right, whatever. Company crafts, no definite time on company crafts being improved. Updates on the way, and then that was basically the end. They just announced a few other things. FanFests in Seoul, Paris Game Week, they're going to be appearing there. The Kitakyushu Pop Culture Festival, they'll be there. New merchandise available on the store. Korean Symphony exclusive gift bag sale because there weren't enough of them at the Eorzean Symphony itself. You have the Untempered Primal Battle themes as their own album. You have the Eorzean Symphony as a video. I believe this has videos as well. Footage of all 18 songs performed by the Eorzean Symphony. High quality audio version of 10 songs. So that's going to be available as well. It also comes with in-game items. The orchestral arrangements of Heroes and Ultima orchestrion roles. Damn. And then Soken came on, talked about that a little bit. And I think that's pretty much everything. The app that we keep mentioning, the one where you can like check the market boards and your retainers and talk to people with the group chat feature, those are all now aiming for 4.2. I feel like I've heard that so many times. And then Yoshida just spent all of his time talking about Castle of Laputa anime. He literally wouldn't stop talking about anime this whole show. It was getting crazy. So the last thing we have to talk about are some of the proposed job changes. We skipped that earlier because there was better detail down here. So again, Luna, thank you for all your hard work for this unofficial translation thread. We were waiting for this part to be complete in particular before we jumped into stuff. So Warrior is the first thing. There were 6 jobs that had details lined up for their changes. So Warrior is the first one. Now, right off the bat, Yoshida was really tired, so I don't think this first one makes a whole lot of sense. Fellcleave inner release will be replaceable actions. So Iluna made a note. Yoshida's very tired, so he might have missed a lot of details. Currently, Fellcleave and inner release are already replaceable actions. Fellcleave replaces inner beast, and inner release replaces Unchained. So what is Fellcleave and inner release going to replace? Who knows? But it doesn't mention any other chains for Fellcleave at inner-release, so really take that one with a grain of salt, and I wouldn't try to dig any deeper until we get to the patch notes in about a week. Shake It Off. Now, this has been the big thing. People have wanted to know what Shake It Off is going to be. I want to know what Shake It Off is going to be. Shake It Off, by default, will cast a barrier to all party members corresponding with the warrior's current HP. So the higher your current HP, the stronger the barrier itself is going to be. However, you can consume your own personal buffs in the form of warriors' first-party buffs, not things like pots and whatnot, in order to make the effect stronger. If you use Thrill of Battle, Inner Release, Vengeance, anything like that, and then you use Shake It Off, you'll consume the buff to provide a bigger shield, a 4% stronger shield to everybody in the party. So it's definitely best used when you want to protect the party and kind of like a buff is falling off, so you can't really benefit from it anymore. That's the time where I think of it being the best, but it is basically their party utility now is in the form of this AoE shield that they can provide to people. And also Steel Cyclone's HP, when you use it, that you get back from hitting the enemies, that's going up as well. Hey, still don't have Bloodbath. Feels bad, man. Now, Dragoon's getting an odd change. Heavy Thrust potency will decrease, but other skills will be buffed alongside that. So what they said the goal of this is they said they want you to not be punished as much for like missing heavy thrust or something, or like not being able to refresh it. I'm just thinking to myself, like, how often does that happen that we need this? Because Dragoon's in a pretty strong place right now, and you just made it. All right, whatever. Sure, I'll wait to talk about it, I guess, when the patch actually hits, because that doesn't make... All right. The other one is Eye of the Dragon went from 4 stacks to 3. Now, I'm sure the intended change there is that if they die, it doesn't take as long to get back to life of the dragon. What actually ends up happening is a job that was already overbuffed from previous buffs is now even more overbuffed. And Dragoon's going to be really strong. So if you're a Dragoon, hey, you're going to have a good time. So then moving on to Ninja. They're fixing, they say, all Doton-related problems. Doton's potency will increase by a little bit. So Doton right now does physical damage when it's supposed to be doing magical damage. Because of that, it's benefiting from the trait that Ninja has that increases physical damage by 20%. So this happened with Bavakakra, or however it's pronounced. I call it that because it sounds funny. It's either that or Baklava, what are the two I'm making fun of it with. Where that was the same thing. It was physical and it was supposed to be doing magical, so they buffed the potency, or they buffed the way that it actually ended up working. Everyone saw it as like a net nerf, but then they ended up fixing like what damage type it was. I think it was actually the other way around. I think it was doing magic. It's supposed to be physical. I don't know. It was one of the two. But everyone saw the Babakakra nerf, and it actually ended up being a buff because of the way that they changed its properties itself versus the way the job actually worked. This is kind of similar to that. However, it looks like to make up for the fact that it's going from physical to magical, they're going to be buffing the potency. So it shouldn't feel that immensely different. And it says potency will increase by a little. I don't know if they mean like the net potency after fixing that, or if they just mean they're buffing the potency to make up for that. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a slight buff, maybe it'll be a slight nerf, but ultimately shouldn't be that crazy. Also, Shikuchi's animation's gonna go fast, like shoulder tackle fast now. So hopefully you enjoy that. Scholar, Alloquium's MP cost going down. So I heard scholars cheering for that. Sucker's barrier effect is being buffed to 150% of the HP it recovers, which I believe matches Nocturnal Stance's AoE shield as well. So Sucker buffed, Adlo, MP cost down, scholars rejoice. And I'm not even done with you yet. Machinist hypercharge potency up. Now to be clear, when it says hypercharge potency, it doesn't mean the debuff that hypercharge provides. It means the potency of your turret's auto attacks when under hypercharge. Why they felt the need to do that, I don't know. Machinist is performing pretty well right now, and if it needs any changes, it's things to make it feel more fun. But all right, Machinist, your turret does a little more damage under hypercharge now. Have a good time. And then Summoner. Oh, you. So Summoner got some interesting changes. Summon's recast time has been shortened to 3 seconds. So instead of being a 6-second cast, it's now a 3-second cast. Its MP cost has also gone drastically down, the goal making it easier to recover after death. Dreadworm Trance has also seen an interesting adjustment. So when under Dreadworm Trance now, Tri-Bind's potency increases by 100. Doesn't increase to 100, it increases by 100. So you now have this AoE filler when under Dreadworm Trance, and that's a lot of damage. And the bind effect is removed for it when you're under Dreadworm Trance. Also, Ruin 3 will not have a cast time when under Dreadworm Trance. Now, that's interesting. What's more interesting is this next one. Ruin 3 replaces Ruin 1, and Ruin 4 replaces Ruin 2. Ruin 4 will have no cast time. It'll be off global cooldown. So what it looks like to me is they're changing Ruin Mastery to be more like the other, like, Arrow Mastery and Stone Mastery, where, you know, Stone went from Stone 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Or like Thunder. Thunder went from Thunder 1 to Thunder 3, and then Thunder 2 transformed into Thunder 4. That's what it looks like it's doing here. But more importantly, it looks like Ruin 4 also is off global cooldown with no cast time. And I wonder if you even need the proc anymore for it then, because I'd have to imagine that, no, you don't. So Ruin 3 will basically be your, what it seems like here is just your go-to filler, whatever. And then on top of that, when you're under Dreadworm Trance, it's instant cast. So you don't need to do like Ruin 2s to fit in off GCDs. You just use Ruin 3s, and then you can still fit in your off GCDs inside of Dreadworm Trance as a whole. Devotion's also being buffed. It now includes all party members around the pet that are in range. So you still need to be near the pet to get the Devotion buff, but it's now an AoE and it's not a targeted buff, so it's much stronger. And Demi Bahamut, they are allowing you to resize him. That being said, instead of having the summoner resize Demi Bahamut, each individual player can resize how Bahamut looks on their screen. So if he's in your way and he's not in anyone else's way, you can shrink him and they can leave him as is, so he can remain to be this monstrous thing on the battlefield if other players determine it doesn't bother them, or the summoner themselves really likes having the giant Bahamut. And then finally, a few last things, and these are not all the job changes. They said there will be more job changes in the patch notes, especially in the forms of potencies that aren't listed here. Addle, Mana Shift, and a Pocket of Stasis, 3 roll actions for casters, are having their cooldowns reduced. On top of that, Sure Cast, its effect will now persist even if you cast a spell. I know there's a lot of black mages and other casters, mostly black mages, who have issues with this on X-Death, where they can't cast. I guess all the casters, kind of, because even if you cast certain other spells, it would have consumed Sure Cast buff. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You won't have to worry about that as a 4.1. So it's a nice little buff. Oh yeah, and Arcanist is getting Sustain back. Enjoy! They said there would be other changes to Arcanist, I think, as well. And now, that officially wraps up the translation. I don't believe there's anything else that I missed out. I have the official translation that I'm looking through real quick just to make sure I didn't miss anything with the side story quest, custom deliveries, Kojin. Nope, looks like I managed to get everything and then some. So that is the overview. Overall, it feels like this is the result of them not taking that extra month. So between 3.0 and 3.1, they took 4.5 months to develop the 3.1 patch. Now, a lot of people presented that as a problem. For me, the bigger problem was what came in 3.0 and what came in 3.1. Gordius had destroyed the raid scene in 3.0, and 3.1 brought Lords of Verminion and Diadem. It wasn't the 4.5 months that was the problem. It was what was present in those 4.5 months, or lack of present in those 4.5 months. So with doing 3.5 months, it seems they managed to get the majority of the basic content that they get in a normal cycle. Update to the Lost Canal of Uznair, you know, the main scenario, the 24-man raid. Excuse me, I should probably take a drink of water, or coffee in this case. They got all the basic stuff through. However, the stuff that they gave up a dungeon to do, most of it looks to have been not made it in time, and it looks like it took about 4.5 months to get that other stuff done. And because of that, Eureka is going to be in 4.2. If this had taken 4.5 months, I wonder if Eureka could have made a 4.15 with, you know, the delayed schedule that we had with 3.0, 3.1. So it looks like in exchange for getting the patch a month earlier than what happened after the beginning of the last expansion, we're just getting mostly the basic things. I mean, the new housing area, you know, the Canals of Uznair update. There's things there and there's fun things on top of Ultimate being 2 weeks out, and then Rival Wings is 5 weeks out, but it all could have been there right at the patch if they had just taken that extra month. We might have had Eureka before the 4.2 cycle, and that's my ultimate takeaway of patch 4.1. But we have to see how the content is, because maybe the story content's better, maybe the music's better, maybe Shinryu's an amazing fight. Maybe Ultimate is an amazing fight. I hope it's an amazing fight. Maybe Lost Canal of Uznair, this new update's crazy fun. Maybe people are having a ton of fun with Shirogane and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how patch 4.1 actually pans out. But you know what? It doesn't have Lords of Verminion or Diadem, so it's 2 thumbs up in my book. Anyway, that's going to be a wrap for this. I'm going to get this uploading to YouTube ASAP. Twitch chat, thank you for being courteous with me as I record this YouTube video live. We're going to hop over onto some gameplay here in a minute. Thank you for watching over on YouTube. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned because, well, we're going to have 4.1 trailer breakdown to do on YouTube, as well as some other stuff leading up to 4.1. I will see you guys next time, and until then, take care. All right, there you go.